Hello and welcome back to the Shmuseum. Today we're having a bit of a V12 swap. We need to head out with the Ferrari GTC4 Lusso, we'll explain in a moment, and we need to collect the Aston Martin DBS and explain the full story, the truth behind what has gone on with that car. So that's the main agenda for today.
There's one problem though, Tim.
Yeah.
You're not seen outside.
I have. The weather is atrocious. It is pouring with rain. Everything's fairly nice and clean at the moment. The Lusso doesn't matter so much because we're basically dropping that off for a service. Having done quite so many miles with it, was it 6,500 now or something since I collected it? It's going for an annual service. MOT in the UK, the checks that you have to do, which will tie us on very nicely to talking about the sponsor of today's video, Car Vertical. We'll get to that in just a second. And a couple of other minor things with it before we're then going to take it to Topaz to do the PPF and touch up that kind of thing. The DBS, you might have noticed, was slightly off, and we're going to talk a lot more about this later on, so stay tuned and we'll get to that in a moment. For now, a couple of small errands, and then I guess we'll get cracking on. Brad, something's missing.
It is. We are missing the Audi RS3. Me and Tom returned that.
I pop away for a day or two, the RS3's gone, and what everybody didn't just see is that the Focus sunroof just got closed from the key because the sunroof was left open after your run out.
It's shut.
It's shut now.
I don't know what you're on about. It looks
No,
shut to me.
okay, fine, fair enough. Anyway, I pop away. The RS3 sadly came to an end of our time with it. It was an amazing car, and you guys have obviously gone and dropped that back off with Audi. However, there's something to talk about quickly that viewers might have noticed in the background of some of the videos that we've never really paid any attention to or shown.
No, they've just kind of been lying around on the floor, which kind of like hints at what they are. And let's show them.
Yeah, so the theme of the Shmuseum is obviously motorsport, the cars with all of their big wings, track focus specials, some of the memorabilia and stuff you see around, flags, checkered flag style stuff, tyres. That's the vibe we're going for. Even with the mezzanine, the idea is eventually to give a vibe of it being like a grandstand, to feel like you're up at the side of a race circuit. So connected to that, one thing obviously to think quite a lot about is the flooring. Now there are so many different things you can do in a garage, epoxy floorings, painting it, leaving it like this, polished concrete. This is already quite nice as these things go. But we've been speaking to Cure Roofing and Coatings, and they very kindly brought round some samples, which we have right here. And you can probably work out instantly what this is about. And yes, we've been testing them. They're not cleanest at the moment. But the idea is to think of the floor a little bit like a racetrack. So as you can see, we've got some samples here, different themes and ideas, different colours, different textures, and we're thinking of this kind of lines. In fact, I've been thinking about this idea as a concept since before even having the keys to this place. The first drawings and sketches I did of it had this theme on it. So that's basically what we're looking at. Imagine if this was literally like a racetrack coming through the middle, and you have the parking areas, or maybe you have gravel traps somewhere or something. Lots of things to explore, so watch this space on that front. I'm quite excited to see how it can evolve. We just need to do basically more of the lift installations and the work over towards the office end and the lounge before we can get to that, because you want to have all of those in place before you do the flooring. And talking about lifts, remember I said that this line was going to extend? That's a work in progress right now as well. We've got the 4 bend pack auto stackers, which are magnificent, but with more cars in here and more cars returning soon, we're going to be extending the run of those. So that's coming in the not too distant future as well. When it comes to the Shmumobiles, I have a number of cars that I bought from brand new, and of course some others that I picked up that were pre-owned, including the DBS that we'll collect later, the likes of the C63 AMG Black Series, technically also the V8 Vantage Roadster, and the GTC4 Lusso, which we'll take today, as well as the service, like I said, for the MOT, which is an annual roadworthiness check that you have to do on all UK cars when they get to 3 years old. And talking about buying used cars, often when you're picking up something from the market, you don't know the history, you don't know the background, you don't know the full story of it, and that's where the sponsor of today's video steps in. Car Vertical are able to produce reports that can help save you money and time when you're looking for the right car. So when it comes to something like the C63 Black Series, it's a car that was about 10 years old. I don't know if it's been involved in an accident, if there's any untoward history that I would want to be informed about prior to purchasing the car, and by being connected connected, in Car Vertical's case, to national databases, to insurance registries, to all sorts of information about car crashes and auctions and sales. They can produce a report that gives you much more insight into the car that you're looking to purchase. So for example, if we show with the C63 Black Series, you can see that it ticks all the green boxes effectively. There's nothing negative in that history, some information about the different number plates that it's worn as those have been changed around, and you can see this information in over 20 different countries as well at this stage with Car Vertical. However, if it was a less positive result, let's say, for example, this BMW M3, it kind of had a bit of a bad accident. Obviously, it was salvaged, rebuilt, but you can see that history. You can see if there was also any outstanding finance, anything that you might need to know about the car to help inform your decision and make the right choice when you're going about it, as well as the MOT history. So you could see if there were any minor marks or any major reasons or things that had to be fixed for the car to pass its annual MOT check. Anyway, I think enough of that. We do need to get on the way. The weather is not so good, so I don't know at this moment which car we're going to take, but it's a big thanks to Car Vertical, with whom you can also save 10%. The link is down below. Give that a click, check out your car and see what you can find out about it. The Lusso is actually getting quite a good run out at the moment, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, it's being used almost as sort of the daily Shmuseum.
We took it to go pick up the Lotus, which has done a lot of miles by this point.
We're enjoying using it. Tom is falling in love with that car.
Quickly, I think he's quickly preferring it to any of the others. It's done something like 400 miles already. We're trying to get it to the 1,000 mile run-in service. But this is, of course, the sound of heaven. So let me hop in, you head round back. We get a nice old V12 startup.
Out on the road in the GTC full Lusso.
The weather is really bad.
And that brings out the very interesting drivers.
It does. We've seen some curious moves so far. Oh, that sound.
The ultimate car for the rain, right? V12, four-wheel drive.
Yeah, I tell you what, the only problem with this car is, for me at least, is that I want to just drive it and drive it and drive it and take the Lusso everywhere and whatever, and not worry about the mileage. And we've done quite a few, you know, that's the purpose of it. But I tell you what, it sure does drink the fuel with the V12.
I can imagine.
And right now it's really expensive. If I summed up how much money I'd actually spent on petrol in this car alone, it would probably make me cry. It's a big number. But then it's miles per mile, right? And that's half the fun of it. And that's why it's going for a service much shorter than normally it would have in a year. I think they basically get done every 10,000 kilometers or so, something like that. 10k kilometers, that's just over 6,000 miles. And actually, Ferrari called and said, hey, it's time to book it in. And then when we started this journey, it pinged up on the dashboard, it's time to get it dropped off for service.
That's good.
It knows.
At least the car knows.
Yeah.
So, I guess hopefully a smooth drive down the M1.
Yeah, a short hop into town, and then we'll get started making it look all pretty again, properly cleaned up, new PPF, service, and touch up one or two things, and yeah, have this back in action. I think it's probably going to take a bit of a hibernation period, I think, would be reasonable, given how many miles it's done. So we'll let it chill out for a bit before, otherwise it ends up doing 20,000 miles in a year, and I'm gonna watch that stuff. The weather hasn't improved.
No. Has it got worse?
It's so miserable.
It's just not good.
Welcome to summer in the United Kingdom.
That's the scary thing. So last video started off a bit miserable, and then the sun came out and we had like a lovely evening out with the Lotus. And now
it's 12 degrees Celsius, raining. I'm wearing a jacket. Yeah, fun times. So we're actually going to HR Owen Ferrari London's service centre, which conveniently is right across the road from Topaz.
Makes life so easy.
Yeah, obviously the supplying dealer of this car and my SF90, so the right place to have these looked after with HR Owen. And yeah, we'll chat about a couple of things with this. There are a few things I want to talk to them about with the SF90 as well, like any new car that's driven 4,000 miles instantly. And then I guess probably quick swing by to say hello at Topaz, and then go from there and work out where exactly we're heading next on the route to Godleman's for the DBS. Well, this is fun.
It's even worse outside the car.
It's windy. It's sideways rain. It's all round grim. Right, let me go in, give them the key for now. We'll see that before too long. We've arrived at our next stop. We are here at Godleman's, which means it is time to talk about the Aston Martin DBS. Now, lots of you have been asking questions about this, and obviously it's not ideal that we're outside in the rain, but we'll get to that in a moment, because while I was away on the Where's Shmee Euro Tour, the DBS came here to have a little bit of paint work. We talked a lot about that. It had some oxidation on the rear quarter. We needed a front end respray before we could take it to Topaz to do paint protection film, and we came down to Godleman's to do that work. They've done a number of bits for us before, MOTs, some small things here and there, and one of the difficulties, or one of the observations that was made, especially on the video, and remember the team had come down, everything was booked with Turbo Transport, who's also back with us today as it happens for the onwards journey from here, was that when the guys were looking at it and inspecting it before picking it up here, everything looked perfect. But when it was back at the Shmuseum, you could detect under our artificial light, especially emphasized on the camera, some very slight color differences. Now, those variations aren't as obvious to the human eye as you might think. Now, the car had had the front wings and bumper painted, but not the bonnet, and they were a perfect color match to one another. But at the doors, at those kind of areas down the side, you could see this very, very small difference. Now, the effect of this obviously was lots of you guys asking about it. I was away on the tour, so I wasn't really fully on top of what was going on, but the team here at Godleman's said, hold up, this looks wrong on the video, this doesn't look right, can you get the car back to us? And in fact, they came immediately to come and pick it up, which is why you haven't seen it on the channel recently. They came to pick it up, brought it back, and had a much further investigation into it. And the result basically was that the car had, in its history, had some paint work done with different types of paints. And this is why you should always run car vertical checks on your cars to make sure you know as much of the history as you possibly can. And the result was that it didn't perfectly match as you would want it to do. And what I really appreciate and massively respect them for doing is that they did step up and say, hold up, we need to make this right. So they came to get the car, brought it back here, we went through it, and I've understood a lot more about it, and effectively repainted some of the areas to ensure that they are absolutely perfect as you would want a lovely V12 DBS to be. And that's what we have now. The car's been here for a couple of weeks, it's had time for the paint to harden to make sure that it's all fully correct, all fully good to go. And it's a funny one, but I know from my experience doing paint work on cars before that it's very hard to get the perfect match, especially if a car has had individual areas painted in the past using the wrong materials, the wrong paint manufacturing supplies, for example. And that's what means that when you have these different lighting environments, you see slightly different shades, perhaps even through a camera, than you do with your human eyes. So the end result now is that we have the car that's been fully prepared, fully done, fully finished. I know it's covered in raindrops right now, but I can see the paint quality finish. It's looking lovely. The wings have been redone, the whole of the front bumper. The bonnet is still as per original spec. Obviously, we're completely matching down the side. This side, all completely fine. Over towards the other side, this is where we had some of the oxidation, and this needed to be done. And they also just made sure everything was done properly. It's really important, you know, to remove all of the right trims, to take these off, for example, rather than trying to paint it as is, and then you find that you'll get paint build up in the wrong areas, and it will just make even more of a mess at the end of the day. So we're going to be taking this now in the trailer. I think given it's had long enough and it's ready for PPF, the logical is actually to put it in the trailer and go straight to Topaz to drop it off for paint protection film to be installed onto the car. I know it's not ideal for seeing the color right now, but that's basically the truth behind where it's been and why you haven't seen it so much on the channel, because we didn't know what to say, I suppose is the right answer, until we had got to the bottom of it ourselves, until we had fully understood it. Anyway, the rain seems to be getting much harder, so we're going to run inside for a moment before we get this loaded up. But there we go, DBS is back. Huge thanks to Godleman's. Honestly, I will absolutely be bringing more cars for their work. Really respect the fact that they've really stood up and made this and got this to work and explained it all, basically, at the end of the day. So let's bail out for a moment. But yeah, good to see the DBS again.
Let's get the DBS loaded up. Tony, I'm coming to shelter in here.
Hello.
How are you?
Getting out with rain, are you?
Yeah, good. I feel like we've got some water drops on the lens now, which is not good, but we'll clean them off. Yeah, you're back to come and help us bring the DBS back.
Yeah.
Deja vu?
Deja vu.
Lovely sound. Here we go. DBS coming in. Tom's just pulling this one up. Tony is just here watching and guiding. Good job, mate.
Good, mate.
Nice and easy. Yeah, I'm gonna go, and I think jump into the Ram to keep out of the rain, because it's pretty horrible. So yeah, let's get this strapped down and get on the road. As you can probably tell, it is absolutely pouring outside. Not good, but DBS is now back. It is soaked. I think we're going to give it a sort of pat down and dry with some of our Topaz drying towels. But great to have this back exactly how it should be. This weather is just horrendous.
The DBS is home. It's back here at the Shmuseum, and we currently have Tom on the camera.
Unusual place for me to be, I'm aware.
But thank you very much, because Tom's just given it a complete clean down, tidied it up, dried it off, because, and we've said this a few times today, the weather. And if anybody out there is playing some form of derivative of drinking game for each time we talk about the weather, which us Brits love to do, good luck to you.
I think they're in a state by now, if we're completely honest.
It would not be working very well, but this has been the ultimate test, because as we said, when the guys were all at Godleman's before, to the human eye, you couldn't see any mishmash of colour. You couldn't see anything that was off. It was here on the camera. The camera emphasised it so much more than the human eyes could see it. And we're walking around the car now, and it's spot on. It's perfect. It's exactly as it should be under these very bright artificial lights, which just maximise anything like that. Any different pearlescence, metallics, you name it. This is like disastrous lighting, or maybe you could say very good lighting if you're looking for things that are wrong.
If you're trying to hide something though, then not good.
Not good, exactly. But this is, I think, what's really, really quite interesting about this is if we rewind back a little bit, and Tom found this in fact, from when the car was here prior to even going for the attempted PPF and paintwork in the first place, you could actually see some slight differences in the paint colour.
Yes, the rear quarter and the boot weren't actually right, but because we wasn't looking for it, you didn't see it.
That's the big thing, and let's bring up a quick picture of it so it's very obvious. You can see exactly what we're talking about here from a picture you had posted a while back on your Instagram page, is that if you're not looking for it, if your attention is not drawn to it, you don't notice it. And this is, I think, a prime example. Because we had brought the car back in from paint, all of a sudden everybody is looking for what is wrong with the paint. And this isn't, I guess, one that we knew about. In fact, even at the time the car went back to have the paint redone again, when they kindly came to pick it up and take it to Godleman's, we hadn't yet realised that it was slightly off before they had ever even seen the car. And that's down to previous work that the car's had. And I find it fascinating because, you know, you don't know the story of an older car, and we've touched on this today with Car Vertical. You don't know what history it's had, the miles it's had, the paintwork it's had, what it's had to have done. And if you look at it now, the result of the paintwork prior to final polishing and PPF is absolutely spot on. And that's what's important. You know, the perfect colour match between panels, everything looking as it should look for a car that's, you know, really special. It's a collector car. It's an important piece. It's something that needs preserving. It's a V12 Aston Martin. It's a lovely, lovely thing. And now it's as it should be. And as I said earlier, things like the bonnet hadn't been repainted. So the fact that new parts matched and didn't match is obviously a complete nightmare for a paint shop. But this is where I want to say a huge thank you to the whole team at Godleman's, because honestly, the end result is spot on. And to my eyes and to our tests with the camera, it's a complete perfect match. And believe me, we're over-analysing everything now because, of course, I think that goes without saying, to be honest. So yes, it's looking lovely. We will leave it here for a little bit. Still got a little bit that we need to tidy up and dry out, but we decided not to continue the journey to Topaz today because guess what? With the really bad weather outside, massive traffic jams, it's rush hour.
You said whether everyone needs to take another shot.
Oh, sorry guys. But yeah, basically didn't fancy it. So we'll leave it here for now, and that will be one to approach when the time comes. It's not a bad thing to let the paint harden for a little bit longer. It's had a bit of time while it's been at Godleman's, but you really want, you know, 2 or 3 weeks after it's actually painted before you put PPF on, because if you think about it, PPF is effectively a layer that stops the paint being able to breathe, and for the long-term preservation of it, if you're ever going to need to remove the PPF film or something, you don't want to have any risks of it pulling lacquer up or anything like that. All stuff you learn. If you PPF a car immediately after, you get weird bubbles and things. It's completely horrible. Don't recommend ever trying that. So again, a big thank you to Godleman's for, I suppose, you know, embracing the fact that it wasn't perfect, even though it wasn't actually their fault in the first place, and then helping us out to make the end result really very, very nice.
Yeah, looks absolutely spot on. And I kind of wish it was going to Topaz for the PPF, because I just kind of want to jump in and take it for a drive. But at least we've got it here and we can sit and look at it, which is almost just as good.
Yes, when it comes to a DBS, one of the prettiest cars ever, and the driving will come soon. It's quite fun for me to see all of the random stuff. Obviously, having not joined the guys on the run up to TDF to go and sort everything like the wheels and the steering wheel and all of that out, we now have even more stuff here at the Shmuseum. I guess we've got the space for it, so why not? And talking space, we have the run of 8 cars again back on this side, having swapped the V12s. One V12 out, one V12 back. The Lusso to Ferrari and the DBS back from Godleman's. But we do still have quite a few gaps in here at the moment. Obviously, this side of the garage is looking pretty sparse with the absence of the Senna, the SLS Black Series, the GT Black Series, the Shelby GT500, the F1 car, the Mini, and now the Lusso as well. Although at some point before long, lots of those will be back, and there'll be some new arrivals like the Amira and the Zenvo and some more things. And we're going to need, as I said earlier, a little bit more space over on this side. So that's something to be working on. Anyway, it is a big thanks to Godleman's for their work to get the DBS right and correct as it should be. And of course, it's a big thanks as well to the sponsor of today's video, Car Vertical. The link is down below if you'd like to find out more information. Car Vertical is available in more than 20 countries, and you can find out all sorts of things about your car with 10% off as well. So the link for that is right down below. Do check them out, Car Vertical. So thank you very much, as always, for watching. Until next time.